Even from a ways away, one can spy the ivory peaks poking above the tree line. Contrasting the rugged lands around it, this towering chapel stands tall as a vision of modern architecture, one that still remains in the 31st century as the last remnants of the Air Combat Academy. Though interest in an academy purely dedicated to air power existed far before the actual construction of the academy, its first real breakthrough came with the National Security Act of 1947. This established the Air Force as its own separate branch of the US military, where it had not been before. This would eventually help substantiate the appeal of a specific academy for this new military branch, much like West Point or Annapolis. Some 3 years later, the Service Academy Board convened. Headed by President of Columbia University and the future President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, they concluded that the two existing military academies could not meet the demands of the newest military service and that an Air Force Academy should be established. In 1954, with the recommendation, Congress passed legislation to begin construction of the academy, and on April 1st of the same year, it was signed into law. Some 580 potential sites were discussed for the academy before finally deciding to break ground in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where it has remained all the way into Horizon's 31st century. Some 8 years later, the distinctive cadet chapel we see in-game was completed as a place of worship for those at the academy. Inspired by French and Italian chapels, the structure has multiple levels, all to accommodate a variety of faiths who come to worship. The lower level houses a large room used for Islamic gatherings. Above this are the Catholic and Jewish chapels, as well as a room for Buddhist worship, each with their own individual entrances, so that multiple services may take place simultaneously without interfering with one another. Last, on the main floor, is the Protestant chapel, which we can still see through the eyes of Aloy. 17 towering steel spires make up the length of the temple, made up of 100 identical tetrahedrons, each weighing 5 tons and encased in aluminum panels. The hall stands 94 feet tall and stretches 280 feet in length. The spectacle of the space is wildly impressive today, as well as its remnants in the distant future. Able to hold roughly 1,200 individuals, the pews are made of American walnut and African mahogany, with ends carved in such a way to resemble airplane propellers of the World War I era, and are capped with aluminum to further invoke the connection to aeronautics. This impressive monument to contemporary architecture would endure into Horizon's future, but as many things would, its role in the world would shift as technology continued to advance. As corporations openly gained more control in politics, so did their aptitude for modern warfare. As nations progressed towards automated military technologies, this left a surplus of manned military aircrafts to the open market, as well as those who were able to fly them. Throughout this era in human history, we see numerous accounts within the lore of corporations going to war with one another to protect their interests, as well as seize those of their rivals. The father of Bashar Mati would lose his life over one of these engagements. A former member of the International Air Force, as more nations' militaries became automated, companies brought on these veterans as a cheap supplement to their own war fleets, a cold and callous reward for those who were formerly the champions of the sky. To what the focus of these new cadets at the Academy was post-human air power is unclear at the present time, but those of the old guard who remained would have one last call to action before all would come to an end. During the events of the Pharaoh Plague, all automated military robotics were no longer a viable asset to their masters, as they would simply be manipulated by the chariot line robots, turning them against Operation Enduring Victory. This became a pivotal piece in combating the swarm, as the human resistance began manufacturing war machines of those that had come before. Tanks and fighter jets, as well as aerial transports, once again found themselves on the front lines, buying time for the completion of Project Zero Dawn. As we well know, however, this could only stall the inevitable. Ruins of these machines still litter the landscape of the 31st century, silent reminders of a world long since past, and whose true history has been lost to the ages. Though forgotten, metal beasts of Gaia's design still take to the skies, a feat only available thanks to those who worked to improve the science of aeronautics and those daring enough to take flight themselves. And though for the Nora in the area, the ruins of a long-decaying piece of worship is seen as tainted and cursed, for those who know, we see the proud legacy of the Air Combat Academy. And that brings our journey to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated, and if you really like what we're doing at the channel, come join our community and hit that subscribe button. Also consider supporting the channel on Patreon to help us create new series and tackle new projects just like this one. Check out the link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep questing.